From tee shots that didn't even make it past the ladies' markers, to shocking blunders right when everything was on the line. These are the most embarrassing golf moments ever happened at the Ryder Cup. What's the most controversial way to lose the Ryder Cup? Miss a crucial putt? Choke under pressure? Well, you're about to find out. Welcome to Ricky Fowler's moment of sportsmanship? Stupidity? The jury's still out. It's Sunday in Rome, September 2023. Europe leads 14-13.5 and needs just half a point to reclaim the cup. America's hopes hang by the thinnest of threads, requiring a miracle across 4 remaining matches. Enter the drivable par 4 16th at Marco Simone. Fowler steps up needing everything to go right and immediately sends his drive into the water. So, game over? Well, not quite. Tommy Fleetwood, showing zero mercy, bombs his drive straight onto the green. Eagle opportunity, Ryder Cup opportunity. But golf's funny that way. Fowler scrambles from the drop zone, wedges to 6 feet, and suddenly has a fighting chance. Fleetwood's eagle putt slides past, leaving him 2 feet 8 inches for birdie. Here's where it gets interesting. If Fowler makes his par putt and Fleetwood misses, the match continues. Long odds? Absolutely. But stranger things have happened in Ryder Cups. Instead, Fowler walks over and picks up Fleetwood's ball. "That's good," he says. The Ryder Cup is over. Europe wins. Wait, what just happened? Social media explodes. Brad Faxon on NBC had literally just said, "That will not be conceded, no chance." Whoops. Look, PGA Tour stats show players make 99.7% of putts from that distance. But this wasn't just any putt. This was the putt, the one to win the Ryder Cup. Fowler called it sportsmanship. Critics called it surrender. You decide. Next up, when golf's greatest putter loses his putter, chaos is guaranteed to follow. What happens next? Well, that depends on whether you're talking about anyone else, or Ben Crenshaw. The year was 1987, and Gentle Ben had earned his reputation as one of the finest putters who ever lived. His Wilson 8802 blade, nicknamed Little Ben, was practically an extension of his soul. For over 2 decades, this $20 putter had been his magic wand on the greens, helping him win 2 Masters titles and countless other tournaments. But even the most gentle souls have their breaking points, and Crenshaw's came during his singles match against Ireland's Eamon Darcy at Muirfield Village. Walking off a green after another frustrating hole, Crenshaw spotted a buckeye lying on the ground. In a moment of pure irritation, he decided to take his anger out on the innocent nut. One tap with his beloved putter. That's all it took. The club that had made him famous was suddenly broken in half, leaving one of golf's greatest putters without a putter for the rest of his match. Since replacing clubs mid-round was strictly forbidden, Crenshaw faced an impossible situation. How do you putt when you have no putter? So, for the entire back 9, Crenshaw had to roll putts using his 1-iron, one of the most unforgiving, least suitable clubs imaginable. But somehow, incredibly, Crenshaw managed to keep making putts with his makeshift solution. But it wasn't enough. Darcy held his nerve to win the match 1-up. Coming in next. Some moments are only embarrassing when the world is watching. And in 1991 at Kiawah Island, Hale Irwin found himself at the center of one of the Ryder Cup's most cringe-worthy mysteries. It all came down to the final match of the War by the Shore. America led Europe 14-13, and Irwin was tied with Bernhard Langer on the 18th tee. 1 hole to decide the cup, wind howling, pressure suffocating. Langer hit first, clean, precise, exactly what you expect from a master. Then Irwin swung. The ball looked doomed, slicing hard into the dunes. The crowd surged forward, certain it was lost. But when the chaos cleared, there was Irwin's ball, perfectly in the fairway. How it got there? Nobody knew. Some said a spectator threw it back. Others claimed a lucky bounce. Langer called it incomprehensible. And yet, the real embarrassment was next. Irwin chunked his approach, flubbed the chip, and made a sloppy bogey. After getting the luckiest break in Ryder Cup history, he couldn't even take advantage. So that was it, he thought. Game over. Langer had 2 putts from 30 feet to win the Ryder Cup. But golf has a way of writing its own script, and sometimes the most impossible moments happen when you least expect them. Next up, not every moment in sports can be explained, though. At the 2010 Ryder Cup at Celtic Manor, history, pressure, and chaos collided. Rain had pushed the final day to Monday for the first time ever. leaving the course soaked and treacherous. America had fought back from a 3-point deficit with Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, and Dustin Johnson delivering when it mattered most. By the time Zach Johnson beat Padraig Harrington 3-2, the overall score was tied 13.5 to 13.5. Everything came down to the final match. Hunter Mahan versus Northern Ireland's Graham McDowell. McDowell built a 3-up lead early, but Hunter clawed back to make it competitive. On the 16th hole, McDowell's approach landed 15 feet from the pin, and his birdie putt dropped, sending the Welsh crowd into delirium. 2 up with 2 to play, Europe was in control, but Hunter still had a slim path to tie. The 17th hole became one of golf's most cringe-worthy moments. Hunter's tee shot fell short, leaving 30 yards to the green. The chip that could have kept hope alive barely moved, rolling to the fringe. McDowell 2-putted for par. Mahan's desperate long putt never threatened. Europe won 14.5 to 13.5. McDowell celebrated with champagne-soaked teammates. Hunter faced the media in tears. That birdie on 16 was huge. "He beat me," he said, voice breaking. Pressure either reveals who you are or crushes you. Life on television. Here we are with the next one. Golf's cruelest moments aren't always missed putts or botched chips. Sometimes they're physics lessons delivered at the worst possible time. Just ask Matt Kuchar about his encounter with Illinois Timber. Saturday afternoon at Medina, 2012. America leads, but Europe's brewing their miracle comeback. Kuchar and Dustin Johnson face Paul Rory and Nicholas Colserts in 4 balls. Every point matters. The 16th hole demands precision. Trees guard both sides like sentries. Kuchar's drive finds the worst spot, in deep rough and a bunch of timber in front of him. Most players punch out sideways, take their medicine. But this is the Ryder Cup, where safe plays lose matches and heroes are born from bold decisions. Kuchar sees a gap, tiny gap, like threading a needle with a sledgehammer. But it's there, and if he can squeeze through those branches, he's got a shot at the green. He lines up with calculated precision. Target chosen, club selected, swing visualized a dozen times. This is textbook recovery golf. Highlight reel material, the swing is pure. Contact feels perfect. For a moment, everything looks flawless, and then physics intervenes. The ball rockets toward the gap and smacks a trunk squarely. Instead of a gentle deflection, it ricochets with absurd violence, screaming back behind him. Kuchar's now worse off than where he started. With millions watching and your country's pride on the line, that's when trees become your worst nightmare. Next up, sometimes the most devastating shots in golf aren't the ones that lose matches. They're the ones that end dreams entirely. Just ask Phil Mickelson about his tee shot on the 16th at Le Golf National. It's Sunday afternoon in Paris, and Europe needs just half a point to reclaim the Ryder Cup. Francesco Molinari stands 3 up against Phil with only 3 holes to play. The math is brutal and simple. For Phil, this isn't just another match. At 48, this is his final shot at winning a Ryder Cup on European soil. His last chance after going 0-2 for the week and getting benched Saturday. The guy who's played in 12 Ryder Cups and somehow collected 22 losses along the way. The 16th hole, a par 3, just 163 yards. On paper, nothing more than a wedge. But with 50,000 European fans baying for blood and history pressing down, that's when 163 yards becomes the longest distance in golf. Molinari goes first, smooth, controlled, right into the heart of the green. Everything you'd expect from a man who's been perfect all week. Now it's Phil's turn. He takes his stance, visualizes the shot one last time, and swings. The ball starts right, stays right, never had a chance. Splash! Before the ripples even settle, Phil removes his cap and walks straight to Molinari. No dramatics, no tantrums. Just the weary acceptance of a man who knows when it's over. Europe explodes, and Molinari becomes the first European ever to go 5-0 in a Ryder Cup. Which brings us to the next one. Picture this. You're the world's #1 golfer. 1 hole left, everything on the line. Then you hit what looks like a decent shot, and watch your Ryder Cup dreams disappear into French sand. Sunday morning at Le Golf National, Europe led 10-6. The first match out, Rory McIlroy versus Justin Thomas. World #1 against rising superstar. All square after 17 grueling holes. The 18th at Le Golf National is diabolical. Water guards the right side like a hungry predator. Thomas went first, crushing his drive down the narrowest part of the fairway. Perfect placement under ultimate pressure. McIlroy's 3-wood looked promising at first, soaring toward the landing area. But golf's cruelest trick struck. The ball plugged straight into the bunker lip, an absolute impossible lie. What happened next was golf at its most sadistic. First swing, ball rolls back into the sand. One more chance. He grabbed a longer iron, needing to clear the lip and reach the green. The ball started clean, then clipped the bunker lip and veered into the water. Game over. Thomas hit a perfect approach to 15 feet. McIlroy didn't even bother walking to the green. He shook hands right there in the fairway, conceding defeat. Heavyweight pillow fight, Thomas called it later. Diplomatic, merciful even, because what Rory had just experienced wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Coming in next. At the Ryder Cup, the putts carry the weight of continents, the hopes of teammates, and the crushing reality that one moment can define an entire career. It's September 29, 1991, and the war on the shore has lived up to its billing. The ocean course has been brutal, the wind relentless, and the atmosphere more toxic than any Ryder Cup before or since. After 3 days of gamesmanship, accusations, and raw emotion, everything comes down to the final match between Germany's methodical Langer and America's Hale Irwin. The Americans lead 14-13. 1 half-point clinches their first Ryder Cup victory since 1983. But if Langer can win this hole, Europe gets a 14-14 tie and retains the cup as defending champions. Both players reach the 18th green, but neither finds their best stuff under the crushing pressure. Irwin misses the green, then hits a poor chip that leaves him 20 feet short. Langer's approach settles 30 feet from the hole, not great, but still a chance. Langer's first putt is bold, racing 6 feet past the cup. Now everything depends on the comeback putt. 6 feet to keep Europe's stranglehold on the cup. The stroke looks good. The line seems right. But the ball catches the edge and slides past, missing by mere inches. The Americans totally lost it in celebration. Langer just stands there, absorbing the magnitude of what just happened. Later, Seve Ballesteros would say, nobody in the world could have made that putt. But for Langer, that was little consolation. Next up, when your reputation is built on staying cool, the last thing you want is to melt down on live TV, right? But pressure and an old injury can make anyone do embarrassing things. Saturday morning at the 2021 Ryder Cup, Brooks Koepka faced a nightmare. His partner Daniel Berger had driven into thick fescue on the 15th hole at Whistling Straits, leaving the ball next to a drainage area. Koepka, still nursing a wrist injury from hitting a tree root weeks earlier, called over the rules official. He argued the drain was directly in his swing path and could worsen his injury. The referee disagreed. Under Rule 16.1, relief only applies if an obstruction physically interferes with stance or swing. Koepka requested a second opinion, and European Tour official Mark Litton confirmed no relief. And then Brooks' composure vanished. Pointing at both officials, he went viral instantly with a line about breaking his wrist. Sergio Garcia couldn't help but laugh, and commentators joked that Koepka could always take an unplayable lie if he was so worried. Thing is that after all the drama, Koepka hit a perfect shot from the fescue, finding the green 200 yards away. His team halved the hole, and the officials probably felt a quiet "I told you so." Now, few things are more humiliating than watching your perfect plan blow up in hours. The 2018 Ryder Cup at Le Golf National started with America brimming with confidence and Europe looking shaky. 4 hours later, everything completely changed. The U.S. team had every reason to swagger. 9 major champions, an average world ranking of 11.2, the best in Ryder Cup history, and Tiger Woods back in form. Media outlets were practically predicting a European wipeout. Friday morning's 4 balls seemed to confirm it. America jumped to a 3-1 lead, and only last-minute heroics from Francesco Molinari and Tommy Fleetwood kept Europe from being totally steamrolled. Then came the afternoon foursomes, and Europe's strategy kicked in. While America leaned on star power, Captain Thomas Bjorn relied on data, preparation, and perfectly crafted pairings for alternate shot success. The results were brutal and glorious. Rose and Stenson crushed Johnson and Fowler 5-4. Poulter and McIlroy stormed back to beat Watson and Simpson 4-2. Garcia and Noren dominated Mickelson and DeChambeau 5-4. And Mollywood, Molinari, and Fleetwood systematically dismantled Tiger and Reed 4-3. Not a single American match made it past the 16th hole. Europe became the first team in Ryder Cup history to sweep foursomes 4-0. 4 hours turned a 3-1 deficit into a 5-3 lead, and Europe never looked back, cruising to a 17.5 to 10.5 victory. See, teamwork beats talent every time. On to the next one. What's worse than choking under pressure? Almost not getting the chance to choke at all because you can't tell time. Welcome to Rory McIlroy's near disaster at the 2012 Ryder Cup, where the world's #1 golfer nearly became golf's biggest no-show. It's Sunday morning at Medina, and Europe is trailing 10-6. They need a miracle to retain the cup, and Captain Jose Maria Olazabal has loaded his lineup with his best players early. McIlroy is scheduled to play Keegan Bradley in the third match, a crucial spot in what would become the greatest comeback in Ryder Cup history. There's just one tiny problem. McIlroy is nowhere to be found. While Bradley is warming up on the range, officials are frantically trying to locate the Northern Irishman, 25 minutes before his tee time. And where was he? He'd been casually getting ready in his hotel room, thinking his match was at 12:25 p.m. Eastern Time. But Medina is in the Central Time Zone. His actual tee time? 11:25 a.m. in 25 minutes. Fortunately, there was a state trooper outside his hotel who provided the world's most important police escort. McIlroy arrived at the course with sirens wailing and just 12 minutes to spare. And McIlroy's opening drive? A wild slice into the TV cables? But somehow he gathered himself and went on to beat Bradley 2-1, helping spark Europe's historic comeback. Coming in next, when you shove the two biggest egos in golf onto the same team, expect fireworks. That's exactly what happened at the 2004 Ryder Cup at Oakland Hills when Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson were paired together. On paper, it looked unbeatable. In reality, a complete disaster. The chaos started before they even teed off. Mickelson had just switched to Callaway clubs, leaving behind the ones he'd been playing all season. In alternate shot play, they had to use the same ball, and Tiger's high-spin Nike ball might as well have been from another planet for Phil. No practice rounds, no teamwork, just a crash course in how does Tiger's ball even work? While 35,000 fans watched, the matches were brutal. In the morning four-ball, Europe birdied 4 of the first 5 holes while Tiger and Phil flailed, losing 2-1. The afternoon alternate shot didn't get any prettier. Phil's drives went wild, Tiger grew frustrated, and their opponents practically walked away with the win, 1-up. By Saturday, the experiment mercifully ended. America suffered their worst Ryder Cup defeat ever, 18.5 to 9.5 at home. And the fallout? Public blame, lingering grudges, and barbed comments that lasted more than a decade. Some wounds in golf never heal, especially when they come with this much style, or lack thereof. Coming in next, most Ryder Cup feuds pit Americans against Europeans. But the nastiest, most personal rivalry in modern Cup history? 2 European teammates who can't stand the sight of each other. Nick Faldo and Sergio Garcia should be celebrated together as Europe's greatest Ryder Cup warriors. Instead, they've spent over a decade destroying each other's reputations one TV appearance at a time. The poison started flowing at Valhalla in 2008 when Faldo captained Europe to their worst defeat in years. A humiliating 16.5 to 11.5 loss to the Americans. Garcia went 0-2-2 that week, playing some of the worst golf of his Ryder Cup career under Faldo's leadership. But it was Faldo's post-Cup comments that lit the fuse. The 6-time major champion suggested Garcia wasn't just playing badly, he lacked fight because of personal issues, specifically his breakup with Greg Norman's daughter. Garcia stayed quiet for 6 years. Then, in 2014, during Golf Channel coverage, Faldo casually dropped a nuclear bomb. Asked about Garcia's Ryder Cup record, he called the Spaniard useless at Valhalla. The comment reopened every wound from that disastrous captaincy. Garcia waited 4 more years for his revenge. At the 2018 Ryder Cup in Paris, Garcia played brilliantly all week, earning 3 crucial points. More importantly, he passed Faldo to become Europe's all-time leading Ryder Cup point scorer. When asked how it felt to break the record, Garcia couldn't resist twisting the knife. This means a lot to me. I've passed some of my heroes today, and Nick Faldo. And finally, you know how long America kept their home turf safe in the Ryder Cup? 60 years. 6 decades without a single loss. 13 wins since 1927. And honestly, nobody thought that streak was ever gonna break. Until September 1987, Muirfield Village in Ohio. Tony Jacklin had arrived with supreme confidence, declaring, I have been coming to America for 20 years, and this is the first time I have arrived, believing that we really, really can win. His squad was loaded with stars who'd been conquering golf all season long. After splitting the opening foursomes 2-2, Europe achieved the first ever 4-0 clean sweep by a European team. The scoreline: Europe 10.5, USA 5.5, heading into Sunday's singles. The backbone of this European revolution was the Spanish fire of Seve Ballesteros and Jose Maria Olazabal. They both earned crucial points throughout the week, going 3-1 together in their matches. But on Sunday, the Americans pushed back hard, and Europe's lead started to wobble. Then came Eamon Darcy, up against Ben Crenshaw, who was putting with a 1-iron after snapping his putter. Darcy held his nerve and took it on the 18th to lock in Europe's 13th point. So when Seve Ballesteros beat Curtis Strange 2-1 to hit 14.5 points, that was it. Europe had won. The final score, 15-13. And from that moment, the Ryder Cup would never be the same.